You have all heard the question, what would happen if one gorilla fought 100 men? Well, I pose a different question. What would happen if one man fought 100 gorillas? Oh, and let's make them mutant gorillas, just for fun. Mutant gorillas who lust for blood. So they can't see anything yet, it's all just rips. He's not gonna last long. They're brutalizing each other, banging their chests. He's just happy to be alive. Let's go. Bam! Flamethrower. The result may surprise you. We zone in on a scientist. He's in a medical facility in the middle of the forest, and it's like in the middle of nowhere, no one around, only the scientists in the facility and the soldiers who guard the place. So this scientist, we don't need to give him a name. He's not gonna last long. But he's just going around doing the regular feeding routine of the test subjects in the medical facility. The test subjects are gorillas. So he's just, pushing a tray. He has a notepad, so it's like this. Pushes the tray, and then he looks at the gorillas. He takes the tray, puts it through the cell door. So the gorillas are in a bunch of cells, and they have open slots, feeding slots. So he opens the feeding slot, he pushes the tray through, then he looks at the gorilla, makes a note, he's like, gorilla is calm, whatever. This scientist, he sees some of the gorillas are acting quite regular, which normally they're at the back of the cell, they watch him, they're kind of excited, they're like, oh, food, well, they can't talk. This isn't Planet of the Apes, but he puts the food in, he closes the slots, they grab the food, they start eating. Next one, puts it in, grabs the food, starts eating, normal behavior, right? And then he gets to one particular gorilla, and then he jumps. He jumps because the gorilla in that particular cell is standing right by the door, which is odd. The gorillas don't normally do that, normally they stay at the back, they pace up and down, but this gorilla's standing right at the door, and it's just watching him. It's just watching him like this. It watches as he takes the food. He's like, this is odd. Now this gorilla, we're gonna name this gorilla. His name is Tommy. That's what the scientists name him. His actual subject name will be X1297, whatever. But for all intents and purposes, his name is Tommy. So this scientist, he's a bit on edge. He's like, this is weird, Tommy's right at the cell door, he's looking at me, but he's just doing his job. They've been doing this for weeks, months, right? He takes the tray off the cart, he opens the feeding slot, and he pushes the tray in. And that's when Tommy makes his move. Tommy grabs his arm, and in a massive show of strength, Tommy rips the arm right off this scientist. Blood is spraying the walls, spraying Tommy's fur. The scientist is screaming. The other gorillas are roaring and hooting and banging their chests. And this scientist is obviously, bleeding to death. He's kind of writhing on the floor, screaming. And Tommy just reaches out the feeding slot, grabs his shirt and pulls him towards so Tommy can get the key card on his jacket. Then Tommy very deftly uses the key card through the feeding slot and unlocks the cell door. Okay, setup done. Now this is about to get fun. So then we focus into a different part of the medical facility. This is where a bunch of scientists are in a lab and they're doing work, and we focus in on one particular scientist, Dr. Dalton. We'll name him. So he's a researcher. He's checking on a particular serum. The serum is what they've been working on, and he's checking on it through a microscope, and that's when the alarms start blaring in the whole medical facility. And then at that moment, a bunch of the soldiers, the security personnel, burst into the lab. Dr. Dalton and the other scientists are like, what is going on? Then one of the soldiers, they have their big automatic rifles, and they're like, there has been a breach. We have to evacuate now. And then there's another scientist called Dr. Lauren, who's also in that lab. She is like, what kind of breach? So Dr. Lauren is the head researcher of this medical facility. So she's in charge of the science part, essentially. And obviously she has a vested interest, as they all do, of being safe. So she's like, what kind of breach? And the soldier says, well, the gorillas have escaped. Everyone looks between each other like, oh, this is bad news. How many? Dr. Lauren asks. All of them, the soldier says. So at this point, Dr. Dalton is like, this is not going to end well. So the soldiers shuffle all the scientists out the room, and they're not running, not yet, but as soon as they get out the room, they hear commotion, you know, there's roars and the gorillas are beating their chests and screaming, and there are gunshots and human screams, but they can't see anything yet. It's all happening in where the gorillas are kept, but they can hear it faintly in the distance, you know? And as they're going, you know, the soldiers are like, with their weapons, they're ready, they're watching, they're like speed walking, they're like, let's go, move. Then Dr. Lauren says to the lead soldier, she's like, obviously this is very dangerous, can this be contained? He's like, we're trying, but there are dozens, and they've all escaped. Dr. Dalton, being, you know, so focused on accuracy there, says there are 159, exactly. Because, you know, I wasn't going to keep it at 100, was I? That's no fun. They're going through the corridors of the medical facility. They turn a corner and they immediately see this gorilla literally has one of the other soldiers in the facility in his arms, just rips this guy apart, like bam. All the scientists are screaming, the soldiers are like, this way. They start running now because this is serious. The gorillas are in this part of the facility. This is something else. Dr. Lauren says to the soldier, if this can't be contained, we have to activate Code Red. Dalton's like, Code Red? But all our research. Now, Dalton and Lauren, they've known each other since their university days. Like, when Dr. Lauren was chosen to do this job, she handpicked the team, and Dalton was her first pick. They've known each other for a long time. But Dalton is like, yeah, Lauren, like, our research, if you activate Code Red, then everything will be destroyed. And Lauren is like, yes, but it's better than letting the gorillas escape. Dalton's like, you may have a point there. The soldier, though, is thinking different. He's like, you know, protective mode. My first job is to evacuate everyone in this. And Dr. Lauren says, no, that is not your job. She like grabs his arm and they all stop. Maybe not a smart thing, but you know, who's thinking straight? They feel like they're about to be killed, you know? She's like, your first job is to make sure we do not cause the apocalypse. We go to the security room now. The soldier, Dalton, they're both not sure, but they're like, okay. So they go to move again, but then there's another corner in front of them, like a corner, it turns left from their point of view. And then a woman, another soldier, one of the security personnel, just comes flying from around the corner, hits the wall, like there's a massive crunch, and she just like crumples to the ground, and they all freeze. And then Dalton can hear footsteps. And then a gorilla comes from around the corner. The soldiers are like, run, go. They open fire. They start shooting. These bullets start like absolutely drilling into this gorilla, but this gorilla just starts charging. He doesn't even care about the bullets. He gets to this lead soldier and just like gets his head and smashes him into the wall. The guy's head basically explodes, right? So that's when the scientists are like, yeah, we should run. They start running. Now they all get separated. So some turn left, some turn right. They're not even thinking straight. They're just trying to run. They're just trying to get away. They're just trying to survive. And Dalton finds himself next to Lauren, right? They're running and they turn a corner, then see some soldiers get killed. They turn back, they dip into a room, then a gorilla smashes through the wall, they come back out. They're just like running through this chaos that is the medical facility right now, and no one is surviving. The other scientists are being killed, the soldiers are being killed. Now the thing is that normal gorillas are essentially nature's version of a tank. They're up to 9 times stronger than a human. They have insane muscle mass. They have thick bone. They can literally just like lift over 1,000 kilograms. Like, they are monsters. If a gorilla is coming to kill you, you are not gonna have a good time, let's say. But these are no normal gorillas. Let's go to what was actually being researched at this facility. So this facility had a very particular mission. They were working on a serum. Now, it's not like some virus that some, you know, extreme version of the flu. Wink, wink. It's not like a biological weapon, at least not in the traditional sense. This serum had one goal and one goal only. It was made and being researched and tested to create essentially super soldiers. People who are faster, who are stronger, who are more agile, more durable, heal faster, more intelligent. But most importantly, that they want to fight. They don't feel fear. In fact, they don't even want to fight. They need to fight. They have a taste for blood. They will do exactly what you tell them to do without any morals or ethics getting in the way. Now, these gorillas in this lab, Tommy and the others, they were the last phase of testing to see how it reacted on them before they started human testing. You may be thinking, like, if you have a serum like that, why would you give gorillas who are super intelligent and are super powerful superpowers? I suppose they never thought testing and giving gorillas superpowers wouldn't end well for all involved. But, you know, like, we're all human, we make mistakes, right? So Lauren and Dalton are running, and Lauren's like, we need to get to the security room now, we need to activate code red. Dalton's like, you know what, you're right, look at this, we're not gonna survive anyway. So they start running. Luckily it's not a long run, so they turn the final corner, so there's a corridor leading straight to the security room. But as they turn the corner, they come face to face with our favorite friend from earlier, Tommy. So Tommy's there and they stop. They're like, oh Jesus. Tommy sees them, immediately attacks. He swipes at them, right? Dalton ducks. Tommy's arm goes right over him. Lauren, unfortunately, did not react so fast. The arm smashes her head. She hits the wall and basically she pops like a balloon is the best way I can describe it. So Dalton is looking up. He's like, well, this is it for me, you know. I lived a good life. I did things that were meaningful to me, but this is it. Tommy's looking down at him. Tommy like lifts his fist, baring his fangs. And then suddenly bullets start whizzing past Dalton and hitting Tommy. It's like, bam, 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 bam. Dalton turns around. There are some soldiers who are shooting Tommy. Some of Tommy's blood just like sprays everywhere and it hits like Dalton in the face and gets in his mouth, and he's like, he swallows a bit. He's like, oh, that's disgusting. But Dalton takes his chance just as Tommy is distracted, and Dalton dashes past Tommy, getting past him. Tommy like reaches out to him, but it's too slow. Dalton's like running. Tommy's like, you know what, forget that random scientist. I'm gonna get rid of these soldiers who are shooting me. So Tommy goes for these soldiers, starts ripping them apart. By then, Dalton, he swipes his key card, gets in the security room, closes the door, and then he turns around only to come face to face with the barrel of a gun. He's like, whoa, human here, human, I'm a scientist. And the person, a woman with a gun, slowly lowers it and she's like, Dr. Dalton? And Dalton nods. He's like, and you are? Private Williams. And he's like, oh yes, I know Private. I mean, he knows of her, right? He's seen her around. She's one of the soldiers, one of the security personnel. He's one of the high researchers, so she knows who he is. And Dalton is like, well, Williams, we may be one of the few people who are still alive in this medical facility right now. And obviously Williams is not very happy to hear that, but she's happy she's still alive for now. There's a bang on the door, just really loud, and they both like jump. Dalton's like, okay, I need to set code red, and she's like, but you mean you're gonna blow up the building? He's like, I need to. The serum is transferred by blood contact, which is what it was intended for, but also by offspring. Like, if these gorillas get into the outside world and they start reproducing, then their children will have the same abilities and they might go undetected for a while, but eventually these gorillas, they want to fight and they will attack. And potentially there could be hundreds or thousands of them, right? Williams is like, but how will we get out? And Dalton says, I don't think there is any getting out of this. We'll try, but don't get your hopes up. So he goes to the security panel, starts like tapping in the buttons. Meanwhile, Williams is looking at the door. The gorillas on the other side are banging, they're bashing, trying to get in. The dent is getting bigger and bigger. And Williams is like, they're getting through, and then Dalton finishes. A timer appears on the screen. It's like 2 minutes. He's like, is there another way out of here? I don't think we're gonna survive, but we can at least try. Private Williams thinks for a moment. Then she's like, the elevator. He's like, elevator? There's no elevator in here. And she's like, yes, there is. So then she goes to a wall. It just looks like a normal wall, but then she swipes her key card on the panel and the wall opens to reveal some elevator doors. And Dalton's like, should have known. She presses the button, but nothing happens. The mechanism isn't working. She looks at Dalton and Dalton looks at her, and then she puts her fingers in like the crack in the middle of the elevator doors, you know, and she starts pulling, and he goes to the other side, starts pulling from the other side, and they open the elevator doors just as the gorillas bash through the door and get into the security room. Private Williams is like, go, go! And she opens fire, starts shooting at the gorillas. Dalton doesn't need to be told twice. He gets in the elevator shaft, he looks up, the elevator's at the top, it's not working, so he sees that on the side of the shaft there are like pipes and wires, and he starts just climbing through. Now, you know, Dalton is in a difficult situation right now. He doesn't really have much to do, but you may be thinking like, climbing to escape from gorillas? Probably not the best idea. And it's not, but you know, he's doing his best. Leave him alone, he's doing his best to survive. As Dalton is climbing, right, he starts hearing Private Williams screaming, and he just starts climbing faster. She's being ripped apart below, and then the gorillas come into the elevator shaft, look at him, and then they start climbing up. They start just climbing up after him. They're gaining on him fast. He sees there's a door, one of the doors on the other side is slightly open, and there's a little ledge that he can grab on. So Dalton takes a deep breath, he sees the gorillas coming up, and he just leaps. He leaps, grabs onto the ledge, starts pulling himself up, kind of like pushing open the door, and then just as he is, a gorilla reaches him and grabs onto his foot. Dalton doesn't even stop. He like starts kicking, he's climbing, and the gorilla's big rough hand comes away with his shoe as he pulls himself up. And he's in this corridor. At the end is like a glass window, like the whole end of the wall is a window, and outside the end of the building so is the forest. And on the left side he sees, you know, one of those glass boxes that has a fire hose in for fire security, or water hose, whatever you call it. And he gets an idea. So he goes, he elbows the glass, breaks the glass, grabs the hose, and at this point the gorillas are coming up, they're chasing after him, but he just beelines for the glass. It's like faster than he's ever ran before in his life, and he smashes through the glass, straight through, and starts falling. He's holding onto the hose, he's hoping it will break his fall, and it's at that moment that the building explodes. So in any normal story, Dalton would be dead. But this isn't a normal story. You remember when I casually mentioned, no big deal, that the serum is transferred by design through blood contact? And that it just so happened that when Tommy, our big old friend the gorilla, was shot in front of Dalton, some of Tommy's blood went into Dalton's mouth and he swallowed it? Good. Dalton wakes up. The first thought that hits him is that, oh wait, I'm alive. Now that's a surprise. The second thought that hits him once he sits up is, my body wasn't that muscular before. Did the explosion send him to the gym for 3 years? Like, what's going on? He doesn't feel any pain. He actually feels better than he's ever felt before. His clothes are quite burnt off, but like his actual body is good. And then the last thing that hits him is, oh wait, the serum was transferred when the blood went into his mouth. He became a super soldier. It worked. All his research, everything they did, it worked. Dalton stands up, right? He goes and he looks at the medical facility, and he's quite surprised. Now, not because of the building. The building is rubble. It's a mess. Destruction everywhere. It's a debris field. What does surprise him is that there are about 100 gorillas all staring at him. They survived the explosion, standing on top of the rubble. Dalton, you know, he kind of smiles. He's like, well, keep in mind, he thought he was gonna die. He's just happy to be alive at this point. He says, let's see how well this serum really works. And then the gorillas charge. Now, you may be thinking like, oh, this is gonna be epic. Dalton, you know, he's gonna stand there and fight and beat up all these gorillas like Rambo and, you know, like an action movie star. But the thing is, 100 gorillas versus one man are brutal odds in the first place. Never mind when the gorillas are enhanced. They're mutants, and they have a taste for blood. They want to kill you. Dalton, yeah, he's enhanced too, but like, levels the playing field in terms of comes back to baseline, and no one man is defeating 100 gorillas. Not in a straight up fight. But the thing is, the serum makes you more intelligent as well. The gorillas, they're very intelligent now. Dalton was already very intelligent. Now, well, that brings us to the real question. One mutant man versus 100 mutant gorillas. Put in the comments who you think will win. The result may surprise you. As the gorillas charge, the first wave of gorillas is coming at him. He looks around. He sees the debris, blocks of concrete, pieces of machinery, all sorts, and he's like, that's gonna be my advantage. So the first gorilla reaches him and attacks, right? And Dalton jumps over him like a gymnast, perfect form, spinning through the air, lands on his feet right next to a concrete block. He grabs the concrete block and smashes it into the gorilla, then into another one. The block crumples, and so do the gorilla's faces. And then another gorilla comes at him. He dodges, he jumps, he kicks, he punches. He's looking around, trying to figure out what to do next. Then the gorilla shoulder checks him from behind. Dalton is sent rolling across the floor, but he comes to stop right next to a steel rebar. He's like, couldn't have planned it better myself. He grabs the steel rebar, he thrusts it through the chest of one of the gorillas. He whacks the head off another. He throws it. It pierces two gorillas and traps them on a tree. It's going quite well, but then Dalton runs. He doesn't run away from the gorillas, he runs into the debris field. He starts weaving and turning left and right and using the environment to his advantage. At one point he sees like a mound of rubble and he pushes it, causing a mini landslide that crushes a few gorillas. And then he sees a wire that's still sparking and he grabs it and electrocutes another couple gorillas. Then he sees a gas line and he hears the gas coming out with his super hearing. He makes a spark with some pieces of metal and then bam, flamethrower. And this is how he goes. Dalton's like keeps moving, never stays still, uses the environment to his advantage, taking out 2, 3, 4, 5 gorillas at a time. And it's going well. He's whittling down their numbers, he's fighting hard, but then one gorilla gets him just right, punches. Dalton sent flying out the debris field, lands somewhere in the forest, not too far. The rest of the gorillas, there are about like 24 left, still led by Tommy, start surrounding him. Tommy is barking orders now, not in words, the gorillas aren't speaking, but he's making grunts and sounds and the other gorillas are listening. He's like their leader. And they surround Dalton. Dalton stands up and now he's angry. Like, not angry, let me think of a better word. He's lusting for blood. It's in the serum's design. He's ready to fight. He feels it bubbling inside of him. Now, one man versus 100 gorillas, not great odds. One man versus like 20 gorillas, better odds. And Dalton, that's the decision he makes. And he just runs in and starts fighting. He's punching, he's kicking, scratching, biting, doing everything he can. It's just a brute force battle. The gorillas are giving as good as they got though. There are bones crunching, blood splattering on both sides. It goes on for, Dalton doesn't know how long it goes for. The gorillas don't know. I don't even know. It goes on for a while. And then eventually, Dalton collapses to one knee. He's tired, he's breathing heavy, he's bleeding all over his body. And he looks around and all the gorillas are dead. Except for one. Tommy stands there. Good old Tommy. I rather like Tommy, to be honest. And he's looking at Dalton. And Dalton looks at Tommy and comes to his feet. And Dalton's like, well, 1 against 1. Let's see. And gorilla and man charge. Now, I could talk about how brutal this fight is. I believe that your imagination will do it justice better than I ever could. But they're going at each other hard, going for the soft tissue, the eyes, the ears, under the arms, punching, scratching, kicking. At one point, Tommy grabs a bite out of Dalton's shoulder. At another point, Dalton snaps the thigh bone of Tommy's leg. They're brutalizing each other. And then Dalton gets behind Tommy, grabs his sides, lifts him up and smashes him into the dirt so hard that a ditch is formed around them. Tommy grabs Dalton's neck, smashes him into the dirt right next to him. Tommy's punching, Dalton's punching. Then Tommy grabs Dalton's foot, just like he did in the elevator shaft, but this time there's no shoe for him to accidentally grab. He grabs the foot, twists and pulls. Dalton screams as his own foot is pulled from his leg. Blood is spurting everywhere, bones detached. Tommy, he has a bit of an ego, you know, he's proud. He lifts up the foot like a prize and then comes bringing it down, swinging hard at Dalton's head. Meanwhile, Dalton's desperate, he's in pain, he can barely think, but he just punches upwards, just like a desperate last attempt to somehow win this battle. And they both hit at the same time. Then, they are both completely still and silent for a moment. And then Tommy collapses to the ground, leaving Dalton's hand held high with Tommy's still beating heart in his hand after he just punched it out of Tommy's body. But then Dalton's hand collapses and he doesn't move, because how could you when your brain has been crushed by your own foot? I told you the result would surprise you. If you enjoyed this story, you know, I tried something different in this video, me on camera, not what I have been doing. But if you did enjoy this, I did make a story of a gladiator fighting for his freedom and the freedom of his wife. It's brutal, it's heartfelt. I'm very proud of it. You can check it out here or here. I don't even know. The video will be up somewhere on screen.